Hello everyone, toddlers and kindergartners, and I help parents understand why their children are misbehaving and how to fix it without yelling, shaming, or timeouts. I'm your host here on the MudRoom. I also host the Parenting Posse Facebook group, and I host Parentability, which is my program where I guide you through identifying why your children are misbehaving and creating a 10 to 20 minute a day plan to fix it. If you're here, say hi, let me know how you're doing. I love chatting with you guys, and I really want to know how you're all doing. Tell me in the comments. I think it's really important that we keep this dialogue going. If you're watching the replay, drop me a replay in the comments and let me know how you're holding up. And don't forget, if you find the MudRoom classes helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe so that you never miss another one. Okay, so last week, since last week, I've been getting a ton of emails from cabin-fevered parents with cabin-fevered kids saying multiple variations on, I've taken your advice, I've lowered the bar, and they're still acting stressed. What gives? And after reading several very detailed emails, and I'm so sorry, but I can't possibly answer all these emails personally. I am reading them though. But after reading several page-plus long emails that detailed what I consider to be the best case scenario, it occurred to me that a lot of you don't know what working towards good behavior actually looks like in practical, applicable terms. I think for most people, they have this pie-in-the-sky idea of what good behavior looks like, with children playing independently and quietly and never stepping a toe out of line, listening to all directions as soon as they're given, being articulate about their boundaries and their feelings, eating all their food, and being grateful for the opportunity to do all of it. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna burst your bubble here, but that is an impossible bar for an adult to reach, let alone a young child. Yes, we all have these moments where we're absolute angels on earth, but that is not the status quo for anybody other than possibly Stepford children. So I'd like to give you an example of what most people would consider a massively poor behavior episode my son had this weekend, and why I'm actually really proud of him, because it's the easiest way that I know to be able to articulate the perspective that I see good behavior from. So on Easter Sunday, which was 2 days ago, everybody in my family woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Every last one of us. Easter's usually pretty special for my extended family. We all get together. We usually eat a huge meal. My kids go to church with my parents. Everybody visits. There's a big egg hunt in the morning. The kids get lots of attention from lots of people other than my husband and myself. So we were all mourning the loss of that, along with the fact that a major low pressure system was running through our area, and my kids have unfortunately inherited my husband's and my sinuses. So whenever there's a low pressure system around, everybody has a sinus headache. So my husband and I got up, we kind of assessed the situation, and decided that we were going to make Easter special in a different way this year, and we just declared it a TV day. We turned on Disney Plus, we turned the screen time limits off on their tablets, and we just said go for it. We put out lots of nibbly snacks like popcorn, we made pizza for lunch. It was very cozy. And it was going great until about 2:30 when my son Logan, who is 6, he chose a game on his tablet that was just a bit too hard for him. And well, it started out okay. It got too hard too fast for him. And he started to get really agitated and frustrated. So when I noticed that, I just kind of casually asked him if he needed to take a break, and he was like, no. And then over the next 10 minutes, he continued to escalate. So I went over and I tried to co-regulate with him. I tried to get him to show me what was happening in the game and either guide him through it or convince him to put it down and take a breather. But he really wanted nothing to do with me. He yelled at me to go away. He yelled at me to leave him alone. He wanted to do it by himself. And then he lost it. He stopped himself from throwing the tablet, which impressed me, but he was sobbing, he was screaming, he was yelling at me to go away, so I did. I walked over to my office, I brought up my Amazon Prime dashboard, and I shut the tablet down remotely. And then he lost it again. He ran to his room, he yelled at me that he hated me, he closed the door, he told me not to come in. So I said, okay. And I went and had a shower because it was 2:30 in the afternoon and I hadn't yet. And while I was in the shower, he calmed down a bit. He went downstairs. He asked Dad to turn his tablet back on. Dad said he couldn't because the tablets are connected to my Amazon account, which is true. And then he got him into playing Lego with him. So by the time I came out of the shower, he was pretty much back to normal and all was well with the world. And I know what everybody is thinking, but you let him get away with it. You just allowed him to scream and yell at you. That isn't acceptable. I would just shut that tablet down, not just for an hour. I'd take it away and I'd never give it back. I won't be disrespected by my child like that ungrateful, spoiled kid. And I get it, but you're wrong. So once he was calm, and I was calm, because, getting yelled at does kind of get you a little hyper aroused, no matter how much you know what's going on. We'd had dinner, he'd had a bath, and then I was like, hey, do you want to talk about what happened with the back game now or tomorrow? And he chose tomorrow. So yesterday morning, I went and I sat next to him before his tablet unlocked. It unlocks at a scheduled time. And I was like, hey, let's talk about what happened yesterday before the tablet unlocks. And it all just came flooding out, like verbal diarrhea. He'd been tired. His head hurt. He was frustrated. And he really wanted to do the game all by himself and show Dad that he could do it. And I later found out that my husband had actually told him that he was too young to play a Super Nintendo game that he wanted to play. So that probably factored into that. And then I'd come and suggested that he take a break, and he didn't want to take a break. He wanted to keep trying until he could do it, which on the whole, you can't fault the kid for the growth mindset, right? That's some stick-to-itiveness. And then I'd gone and shut it down on him when he was in the middle of trying, and it had made him angry and frustrated and sad. Fair enough. So I was like, okay, do you remember what it felt like in your body when you started to get frustrated? And he was like, yeah, it felt like somebody was squeezing on my heart. And I was like, okay. So when you feel that feeling, that is your body telling you that you need to take a break. And he was like, okay. But sometimes I'm too frustrated to do that. Sometimes I don't want to take a break. I want to keep trying. And I was like, okay, if I notice that you need to take a break, how would you like me to tell you? And he suggested that I not ask, which is what I had done, that I tell him that it's time for a break in 5 minutes, and that I set a visual timer. Which are all strategies we use on a regular basis, ones that I didn't particularly know that he liked, but it turns out I know what I'm talking about. So that's what we did. I said, okay, let's do that. I can do that. And we agreed that if it doesn't work, we're going to talk about it again. But it's been working great. He's had 2 lesser episodes of frustration since then, and I followed the plan, and so has he. And I am super, super proud of him. He was able to calm himself down. He was able to articulate when he was prepared to talk through it. He showed great awareness of his emotions in hindsight, and he was able to collaborate with me on a solution so that it doesn't happen again. That's what I consider good behavior. And I'm not telling you this to brag on my kid. He's awesome. I love him. But that's not the point of this. I'm telling you this because I want you to see that good behavior and the path to good behavior doesn't always look pretty and quiet. Co-regulating doesn't always look like cuddles and deep breathing. I didn't turn off his tablet to punish him. I did it to remove the stressor. He couldn't regulate with or without me with it on, so I had to turn the game off. I didn't turn it off because he didn't deserve it anymore. I didn't turn it off to show him who's boss. I did it to reduce his stress. And he didn't like that, and that's okay. He had to hit a bit of a wall before he could calm down. He wasn't being disrespectful. He was dysregulated. He was in red and later brown brain. He needed his stressors reduced, and he couldn't do it by himself. So I had to step in and help, even if he wasn't particularly appreciative of that help. And if I jumped down his throat and shamed him because he was dysregulated, as we all are right now, let alone when we feel sick and tired, it would have escalated. And it would have happened again and again and again and again. And I'm tired, I'm stressed, I'm, just as done with this whole situation as everybody else. I don't want to be dealing with this situation again and again and again and again. I don't have time for that. I know his weak skills, and set shifting is one of them right now. We've been working on it. And I was asking him to do something that he didn't have the ability to do right then, which was set shift off of his game. So I was putting a pretty big demand on him. And I want to point out, I've been practicing all of this for a decade before he was born, and I've been teaching others to do it since he was 18 months old. So I've been teaching him how to do all of this stuff his whole life. I'm aware of his stressors, I'm aware of his weak skills, I'm aware of the gaps in his critical thinking ability, and on the whole, I can't complain. Logan is a pretty good billboard for me generally. He's usually pretty adept at this stuff. So if he, at 6, still melted down, stomped, screamed, called me names, and needed a good 15 hours to regroup before he was ready to talk about it and collaborate on a solution, what makes you think that your 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old should be able to calm down faster with less help, without any practice, and without you being aware of all of those factors? Let alone the fact that we are in the middle of a global pandemic that has caused us all trauma. Let's not sweep that under the rug and pretend it isn't a factor. Kids are human. They're going to mess up. They're going to get overwhelmed. And especially right now, they're going to be dysregulated. We need to expect that. That's kind of the status quo right now. Having a well-behaved child is not about them never experiencing stress or exhibiting stress behavior. That is a bar that is too high. It is about them being able to look critically at what did happen and collaborate on a solution so that it doesn't happen again, to learn from it. And then if that solution doesn't work, coming back to it again and trying something else. It's about building that self-awareness and building that toolbox of tools that they can access at any moment. It's not about them having all the answers and being agreeable all the time. It's kind of a cumulative effect, right? Imagine if every time your child had a behavior episode like that, you were able to move through it, help them learn from it, and identify which skills needed support and make a plan to build those skills and solve that problem so that it doesn't happen again going forward. If you do that every time, eventually the behavior episodes get further and further apart because the problems you've solved are more and more. The skills they've built to implement the solutions are more and more. So those challenging behavior episodes become further and further apart. It doesn't mean they're never going to happen. That's, again, too high of a bar. Children come up against new and unexpected challenges all of the time. They go through developmental leaps all of the time. They have a lot more variables to account for and are much less equipped to manage those variables than an adult is. So you see how looking at each instance of challenging behavior as a difficulty navigating a problem versus some kind of character flaw makes it a lot easier for them to grow? Their behavior isn't about us. It's not about how they feel about us. It's not about how much respect they have for us. It's not about punishing us. It's got nothing to do with us. It's got everything to do with not knowing how to navigate a problem and not having the energy to use the skills necessary to figure it out. Whether it's because those skills are weak or because they really just are literally that low on energy. So when I say lower the bar, I don't mean just accept more challenging behavior, which seems to be how a lot of people have interpreted that. I mean expect more problems. Understand that you might have to revisit problems you thought were solved, either because the solutions that you had in place require more energy than they have available now under the current climate, or because the solutions you had in place simply aren't available anymore, period. A lot of our coping strategies aren't available to us right now. Remember, we're all operating on lower than normal energy. We're operating in pandemic quo. Everyone is in survival mode, even people in the best possible case scenario. And this has had a huge impact on our kids and on us. I know this is hard, I get it, but I promise it is easier if you look at it from the perspective of what is causing the problem and how can we fix it versus what is your problem and why is nothing I do good enough for you. See? Hey Andrea, hey! Kendall, what do you do when your toddler agrees in 5 minutes to, let's say, pick up his toys, or in 5 minutes the TV goes off and then the 5 minutes is up and he freaks out and he throws a tantrum? Well, first, are you making that 5 minutes concrete for him? Remember, children, all of us, but children especially, are very present people. Whether they're doing something they love or they hate, they think what's happening now is going to happen forever. Unless we can make that time concept concrete for them, they're going to feel like you say that and then 2 seconds later you turn it off, right? And everybody has that, right? When you're doing something that you love, that you really enjoy, that you're having fun doing, it feels like time flies. When you're doing something that you hate, a minute feels like an hour. So when you're like, okay, 5 minutes and the TV goes off, and then you turn around and turn the TV off in 5 minutes, and they have no way to measure that time because they're kids and they can't tell time yet. It's like you saying, okay, 5 more minutes, and then turning around and turning it off immediately. Like, they don't have that ability to measure time relatively. So if you're not making it concrete, that's thing number one. Number two, what you've asked them to do, and when you've asked them to do it, there's a fluctuation in energy and inability there. Just because you said that you could do it in 5 minutes doesn't mean that you necessarily have the energy in 5 minutes to do the thing. That is one of those spots where you kind of have to anticipate that there's going to be a problem, right? And especially with 5-year-olds, did she say it was 5-year-olds? No, she just said it was 5 minutes. Yeah, toddlers. With toddlers, you just have to expect that there's going to be a problem because that is a very high demand and they probably only have a little bit of energy to do it. So again, making things as concrete, as predictable as possible, and then expecting that there is going to be a rough transition there because you're putting a very high energy demand on them when they're probably at their lowest energy. Hey Isa! Have the visual timer still happening as previous question? Yeah, guys, we're operating on low energy, right? We're operating, even if so let's just say, best case scenario, your child before all of this hit was, able to get through their day with relatively few bumps in the road. Okay? And they were pretty competent at that. That takes a certain amount of energy. They don't have that much energy anymore because we've all gone through a trauma. Okay? We're all operating with a smaller tank of gas and larger demands. So, again, we just kind of have to accept that our kids are going to be displaying a lot of stress behavior right now. And we have to come back to them and try and make a plan so that they can avoid that issue going forward. It doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect, right? Like if I'd said to my son, hey, so how can we avoid this in the future? How would you like me to tell you that I noticed that you need a break? And he'd been like, well, I need you to give me like a 5-minute timer and tell me. And I'd been like, great, I can do that. And then when I went to do it, he'd been like, okay, I can't, like, and he'd blown up. Then we would have to go back again and be like, okay, so that didn't work. Why do you think that didn't work? What do you think we should do next time? And try again, right? If your first try doesn't work, then you just have to keep going back to it and tweaking and making those changes to see where you can hit that sweet spot. Now, I'm talking about a 6-year-old in that example, okay? 6. I'm not talking about a 2-year-old. A 2-year-old cannot have that exchange. A 2-year-old cannot make that plan because they cannot see that far in the future. They're even more present little people. So you need to, in that case, you're going to use more of a, this is what we're going to do next time. You're going to make the plan. And then if it doesn't work, you're going to tweak it and try again a different time, right? We're just making small changes until we hit on what works. Alexandra, hey! I can see my daughter is going through a regression in her behavior. She used to only use her pacifier to sleep when she was sick. Now she started using it all the time. Yeah, that's that low energy, right? Like, we just don't have the gas in the tank to do what we were doing before everything got messed up. We've all been traumatized, and I don't think people are realizing just what an impact that has had on our energy levels. People seem to think that, we're not under an immediate threat, most of us right now, so we should be able to just kind of like keep calm and carry on. And that's not really how that works. Even if you are in the best case scenario, you have no financial troubles staring you in the face, your place of employment is very understanding, you have one parent that can look after the kids and one parent that needs to work. Like, if you are in the best possible scenario right now, you're still stressed. You're still been traumatized. You're still undergoing a reduction in energy, and quite a significant one. It's not just a little bit, it's a big one. So we all need to just kind of like lower the expectations a little bit, and expect that those problems are going to be coming up more frequently and that we're going to have to do more tweaking. Hey, Jessie. Jessie says she has a 5-year-old son who's very sensitive. We've been severely struggling with yelling, screaming fits, boundary issues, being completely defiant, sibling battles, and we're all exhausted. We have set house rules, house talk, have late talks, and trying to spend extra time with him at a loss. Am I seeing the stress behavior? Where can I find your ideas on plans? Yes, Jessie, that is exactly stress behavior. That is textbook stress behavior. And yeah, 5 is hard because they have, again, 5-6-year-olds are in this transition stage where they understand a lot more about what is going on, but they don't actually have the ability to do anything about it yet. They're not big kid enough yet that they have some autonomy. They're still very much little kids with big kid awarenesses. So yeah, and especially if your child is typically very sensitive and gets hyper aroused very easily, we're all hyper aroused. We're all operating at a higher level of baseline arousal because we're all watching for the danger. We're all waiting for the other shoe to drop. We've all undergone a trauma. We've changed our lives too much, too fast. And we know that that means that there is a danger, but we can't see it. It's invisible. We're hiding from an invisible enemy that we can't see or find or protect ourselves from actively. So we're all on high alert and waiting for the other shoe to drop. And that means that if you're already kind of a hyper aroused person, you're now really hyper aroused. And yeah, if you want to kind of dig more into that, parentability is the place to do that because we go through the science, the neuroscience of how that actually works in the brain and how to recognize it as it's coming down the pipe so that we can kind of cut it off at the knees. Alexandra, she even told me she wanted to be a baby, that she wanted to go back in my belly. Yeah, because that's where she feels safe, right? So we need to be really focusing more so than ever on that safety. We need our kids to feel safe. That is what our goal is right now. Not academics, not perfect behavior, not skill building. Our goal right now is everybody feels safe and loved. We're cranking up the consistency and predictability knobs, and we're focusing on everybody trying to stay regulated. Okay, that is what's important. We're not looking for improvement right now. We're looking to try and maintain, because it's kind of like, you know, when you send your child to school or a birthday party or something like that, where they have to perform, they have to use their skills at a very high level, and then you get them back, and you know, the host or whatever is like, oh, they were a perfect angel, they were amazing, he's so awesome, we'd love to have him back. And you're like, okay. And then you get in the car and the world melts down and they just lose their mind. Well, that's because they were holding it all together. They were using all of their energy for where they weren't safe. And now that they are safe, they don't have the energy to use their skills at that level anymore. So it all just goes to hell in a handbasket. That is going to happen with this situation because we're all at high alert. We're all expending way more energy than we have. So when things start to go back to normal, it's going to get worse before it gets better. You heard it here first. It is going to get worse before it gets better. Okay, hold on. There's something covering my comments here. There we go. Anna, what visual timer do you recommend? I recommend the Time Timer Plus. I actually... See? I literally have one at hand at all times. This is the 20-minute version. It comes in 5-minute, 20-minute, 60 minutes, and 120 minutes, I believe. This is the 20-minute version. It's light blue. I like the Plus because it has the carry handle, so it's easy to grab. It's got little feet, stands up very sturdy. It has, I don't know if you can see this, it has a knob, goes the other way. It has a knob at the back to adjust the volume of the beep. It has the screwed closed battery compartment, which is a feature that you don't appreciate until you appreciate it. It has this center knob to change the time. The Classic I find very fragile because there's like a little tab on the Classic one that's on the actual disc, and you have to pull the tab on the disc. And if you pull it too hard or you wrench it too hard, it messes up the timing mechanism. Whereas the knob, it's much easier to not do that with. And it also has a hard plastic case or face to it, so there's no little fingers that can get in there and mess with the mechanics. This is my lifeblood. As you can see, I have one at hand at all times. We're using this one less right now. This is the 20-minute one, as I said. I also have a 120-minute one and a 60-minute one. Those are getting a lot of heavy use right now in our house. Live and die by the Time Timer. Oh, Isa says that her daughter just figured out that she's adopted. Well, see, look at all these stressors that these kids are dealing with. Can you blame them for not having a whole lot of energy? They're doing a lot of processing. Jessie says, thanks, that makes a lot of sense, and I've likely had much too high expectations for him right now. I think everybody has had too high expectations for their kids right now, quite frankly. I don't think we've really, and I think it's actually kind of a protection mechanism a little bit, where we're like, everything's fine, we can keep doing what we've always been doing, everything's okay. We're kind of in a bit of denial collectively. But I think now that we're a month and a half into it and there's no real end in sight right now, we need to start kind of coming back to earth and being like, okay, how can we how can we get through this in one piece? And just lowering the expectations a little bit. It's not necessarily lowering the expectations, but just expecting that there are going to be more difficulties meeting the expectations, I guess is a better way to put it, is something that I think we need to all start being very conscious of. Jessie says that her 2-year-old has been walking around with his Seuss's too. Yeah, you're so welcome, Anna. What if they literally hate the visual timer? My 5-year-old mentions he hates it. You have to kind of create a bit of a relationship with the visual timer, I find. Don't always use it for negative things. Like, I use it a lot for, we're going to get to do this in 5-10 minutes, whatever. We use it a lot for timing how long he gets to do things that he likes. So, especially with the 2-hour one. Try and use it for some positive things so that it's not. And also try and dig deep into what it is that he hates about it. My 6-year-old loves it, like almost to an unnatural level, I find sometimes. My 3-year-old said he hated it and he would avoid it and he was freaking out about it all the time. And finally I was like, what is it about the timer that you hate so much? We've been using this since you were a baby. My 3-year-old has some auditory defensiveness. He wears ear defenders a lot of the time because he gets very startled by loud noises. And I realized that he only hates the timer when the beep is up. So we've been reducing the volume quite a bit on the beep so that it's not quite so jarring for him, or turning it off completely and just kind of drawing his attention to it more frequently. So dig into what it is about it that he doesn't like, because sometimes that's a very easy fix. Alexandra says, my daughter sometimes freaks out when I take out the timer. I think she feels pressured. Yeah, so use it for some fun things. Like, don't always use it for, we're going to do this thing that you don't want to do in 5 minutes and you only have this long to do. Try and associate it with, I often will use it for superfluous things. Like, hey, we're going to have ice cream in 5 minutes. Or, hey, what I use it for a lot actually is, well, before all of this hit, was taking my kids to my mom's house, which is basically Disneyland, because my mother is like the epitome of the overindulgent grandma. And so, like, hey, we're going to go to Nana's house in 20 minutes, set the timer. In 20 minutes, if you want to go to grandma's house, you have to be in the car. And they're like, okay. You don't, try not to just use it for things that they don't want to do, is what I'm trying to say. Try and create a bit more of a positive relationship with it. Alrighty, awesome. Well, thank you. Oh, so just before I wrap up, before I forget, just a reminder that tomorrow we have our Tech for Tots workshop running with CyberSmart Canada. And this is a premium bonus workshop for Parentability members. But because all of our kids are spending a lot more time on tech right now, we've opened it up to the posse too. We're going to be covering not just the basic safety for kids on technology, but a lot of stuff that a lot of us don't even think about, like identity theft and protecting their personal information, and some things that we might be doing that we think is helping our kids be safe, but is actually putting them in danger. It's going to be about an hour and a half. It's by donation to CyberSmart Canada. Every cent that we collect is going directly to them. They're a not-for-profit. So if you want to join us and get a taste of what some of the extras my Parentability members typically get, this is a great opportunity to do that and get some valuable information that will keep your kiddos safer. So the link for that is in the description. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I will see you next week for another Uncommon Sense parenting class. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay the fuck home. Bye.